We love where we live. Aroha kauana mātou ki te kāinga. Lots of clean, fresh water, a healthy moana, unique plants and animals, some of which aren't found anywhere else. A region that's adaptable and resilient to challenges like climate change, well-connected communities, and is developing with nature in mind. That's why we care for our place, the mighty Waikato. And we know you care about your place too. Make your Waikato even better with us. Tō Waikato, kia wana.
i te Finance Department. Wai hoki, oia te tiamana o te Waikato Catchment Advisory Committee mō nā tau e rima pia. He nui ngā hua kia puta i tāna mahi hei painga mō ona iwi, mō ona hapori katoa nō reira, tēnei mātou o te kaunihira arohi o Waikato, tēnei te mihi aroha ki ona whānau i te rawa pauri. So just to acknowledge for Maxine. Maxine actually worked in the Finance Department here for a few years before my time, and then she chaired our Waikato Central Catchment Committee as well for about 5 or 6 years, I think. So a long history, a history of contributing to not only the community but to this organisation here as well. Ka hoki ngā whakaro ki te ariki o Ngāti Tūwhare toa, ko tā tumu te hiuhu, tūkino te tuawaru, nāna i kawe te rama hei arataki i te iwi, nāna i here i ngā wai e rua i te whenua me te tangata hoki kia kia ora ai tātou katoa. Ko rangatira rau atu tōna nākau hihiri mō te taio, he tauira whakahirihira mō tātou katoa nō reira. Tēnei mātou o te kaunihira arohi o Waikato, ka tuku ngā mihi, ka tuku te whakamanua ki aia mō tōna kaha, mō tōna nākau nui ki ona iwi, ki tau Māori, ki tau whānui hoki. Ka hoki ngā whakaro ki tōna hōrangatira ko Lady Susan me ona whānau. Nō reira, e te rangatira te pau o te pau heranga o Ngāti Tūwhare toa, moi mai rā.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Kneebone. All right, health and safety statement. We do have the audience.
No.
No.
Apologies. Marina Koto, obviously I needed to clean my glasses a bit further this morning because I can't see the other end of the room. So just to summarise for you the health and safety statement, in the event of an emergency, please follow the directions of staff. The fire escape is through the 2 main chamber doors. Fire exit onto the footpath to your right, and please use the crossing to assemble in the park across the road, being mindful of the traffic. If any other events occur, please just follow the directions of staff. And for anyone who hasn't been here before, the bathrooms are through the main chamber door, just down the hallway a little bit and to your left. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Democracy Dave. Apologies. We do have an apology from Councillor Hodge. Any other apologies? Nope.
I think we've
I've
got
got
one
it.
in Tapatoa. I think Tipper's gone down.
Oh, has
She's not
she?
online, is she?
No.
Yeah, no, I think she told me so.
Okay, so we've got apologies from Councillor Hodge and Councillor Mahuta. I've got a mover and Councillor Downard. Sorry. Yes. So I've got a mover and Councillor Downard, a second in Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, confirmation of the agenda. Now we have had changes, so just gonna let our Chief Executive.
Okay, Madam Chair, if I can just take a moment before moving something. I'd just like to acknowledge the Chief Executive's work on a notice of motion that I submitted 2 weeks ago with the support of the majority of the council, if not all. I take my hat off to the Chief Executive for undertaking the due diligence that he has done and has preempted the need for this notice of motion to proceed. And as a result of that, I seek to withdraw the notice of motion in the public excluded section. Thank you.
Right.
And so if I can just confirm that I have asked staff to work with lawyers to withdraw our section 274 party appeal against the Bucklands development.
Great. All right. Anything else we need to note in the agenda? No. Have I got a mover? Councillor Nicol, second, and Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Disclosures of interest, any additional disclosures, new disclosures, anything that's not on the list already or in relation to a particular item before the committee, or sorry, the council today? Nope. Okay, we'll now move on to the minutes. We've got confirmation of the council minutes from the 28th of August, 2025. Now, in relation to that, just the at the August council meeting, we had a delegation from Plug, and there was a brief discussion, though we did not note an action point. There was a brief discussion around requesting staff to investigate the some of the suggestions around
If I could help you, Madam Chair. The request was that that council would consider where there's utility providers of and have had water take consents when they're up for replacement, that they be considered for a non-notified controlled type of activity status.
Sure.
Of course, that would require a plan change to be able to do that. Just so you're aware, I have passed that on to staff to consider it in the current freshwater policy review. But of course, there can be no plan change for at least before the end of December 2026 under the current legislation.
Okay.
But happy if council would want a report to come to the new council
To the new council.
to explain, have a response to the deputation and process.
And just to clarify, I was out of the room talking to the Plug representation and didn't hear the request from the chair that was there any interest in doing such, and had I been in the room I would have asked for that, so I'm asking now so that at least it can be considered. Thank you.
Just also
right.
to note, Madam Chair, that I did ask the question of Vaughan Payne, Waikato Water's done well, who said he would be delighted to have that plan change.
So we're going to just note an action point to come back to future council on that matter. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, and
Councillor
just a matter of clarity, are we going to receive the minutes individually from the different committees? Because I would like to speak to the Harry Gold Forum ones, if we're not going to do them in bulk.
We can, I do have a separate item for the, we do the Hauraki Golf Forum separate, so I'll make sure that we come to you for a comment. All right. Okay. So we've noted the addition of the action point in regards to the 28th of August, 2025. Do I have a mover that those are true and correct record? Councillor Smith and second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. How do you want to work through these?
How about reading them all out, shall I?
Let's do that.
Good morning. Most of you will be familiar with this as previous to the last few meetings, we have been bulk receiving and confirming the minutes. For clarity, I will very quickly run through the minutes that are before us and then hand back to the chair. So we are seeking for the following minutes to be confirmed as a correct record, being the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting held on the 21st of August, the Finance and Services Committee, both the open and public excluded minutes from the 3rd of September 2025, the Submissions Subcommittee from the 16th of September 2025, and the Integrated Catchment Management Committee from the 18th of September 2025. We are also looking to receive the minutes from the Waikato Regional Council Co-Governance Committee from the 1st of September, the Regional Transport Committee from the 8th of September, the Waiora Co-Governance Committee from the 9th of September, Te Nehi Nui Co-Governance Forum from the 9th of September, the Future Proof Implementation Committee, both open and public excluded minutes from the 12th of September, and the Risk and Assurance Committee, open and public excluded minutes from the 17th of September. I will remind you that as part of this parcel, the Future Proof Public Transport Committee delegations have been returned to Council with the disbanding of that committee, and the confirmation and receipt of these minutes in no way means that we are adopting any of the recommendations for Council. Those will be dealt with after this item.
Can I ask a clarification, please?
Sure.
Because you've mentioned the
Councillor
Risk and Assurance Committee minutes. They're not listed in the agenda. So how do we go with the public notification of the agenda, not included those minutes?
The Risk and Assurance Committee and minutes were published in the addendum on Monday, and those have also been publicly available on our website since then. So they meet the statutory requirements for notification.
It's good to have that.
Does that also include the Submissions Subcommittee?
Yes, that's right. The addendum contained the minutes from the meetings held last week, which were, from the top of my head, Submissions, Risk and Assurance, and Integrated Catchment.
Thank you.
All right. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Clarkson, a second, and Councillor Downard. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. We're doing the Golf Forum. Councillor Marr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you will have picked up in the minutes, we did have a presentation with Minister Potaka. Just a couple of things, questions that were raised with the Minister. So the Hauraki Golf Marine Park Protection Bill and the passage of that, it has been delayed and delayed and delayed for those that have been following it. The latest that we have heard is that it should be heard in the second week of October. But yeah, again, depending on obviously central government timetables. Predator-free 2050, the board has been disestablished. The minister did confirm that those projects that have been financed will continue, even though with the disestablishment of that board. And then also during that meeting, we also renewed our administration authority, which is held with Auckland City Council, and also our governance statement. And we are also now proceeding to advertise for a new executive officer. So just wanted to let council members know about those items. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunbar-Smith, did you have a question? No. All good. All right. We've got a mover. No questions? We've got a mover and Councillor Marr, second and Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So now we'll move to item 7.2. This is our health and safety. Nope. Oh, recommendation. Sorry. Apologies. So this is on. This is, sorry, recommendations from the Finance and Services Committee of the 3rd of September in relation to budget carryovers and adjustments. Councillor Hughes, did you want to speak to these recommendations?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to speak to those. As recommended by the Finance Committee, as put to us by the staff. The committee accepted that they were all appropriate carryovers from the previous year. The surplus, as per reported at the last meeting, is still in place. Janine confirms that the audit's 2 weeks completed. We're into the 3rd week now, and nothing major has been raised at this point in time. And at the Audit and Risk Committee, there was an agreement that we've deferred adoption of the annual report until after the swearing into the new council. So that'll be the meeting of the 9th of November or December. The audit cannot be completed in time for this committee council to approve. So that's probably it. The only other thing is that there's been a change to our borrowing security. We're now going on a commercial basis. The Finance Committee approved the signing of a debenture trust deed, which is the way normal borrowing is conducted in a commercial environment. That's more efficient. It will save legal fees, and it had the unanimous support of the Finance and Services Committee.
Great. So in relation to this recommendation, though, you happy to move this recommendation?
Absolutely happy to move that, Madam Chair.
All right. I know I've got a second in Councillor Strange. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next one. Risk and assurance. Who would like to speak to this one? You want to speak to this one again, Councillor Hughes?
I'm happy to speak to that, Madam Chair. The only major item I've already covered under Finance and Services. I probably should have left it, but it really, I'm not going to restate the obvious. But other than that, we had a very good meeting, and Jen might care to comment on it as well. And was general comments after the meeting that they felt the committee had functioned very well. A number of issues that were raised. And there will be some work for the new committee to carry on with in the new triennium when it's formed. So I've really got nothing else to add for risk and assurance. Jen might care to comment.
All good.
Thank you. So happy to.
So I've got a mover in Councillor Hughes, a second in Councillor Nicol. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Now we move to the health and safety report. So this is item 7.2 on page 102 of your agendas. And we have Dylan Harris presenting the report instead of Stu Brown, who's away. So welcome, Dylan.
Sure.
Nice.
Excellent. So yes, Stu is away on a well-deserved break at the moment, as is Marie. So given the opportunity to come and speak to you guys around our report. So I'm happy to take the report as read, but a couple of things I'd like to point out for it. So our national event focus for this month was around a fatality on the roads last year in June. So it's just come through the courts now in terms of a 37-year-old seasonal worker from a small island nation, Kiribati, that was killed during a crash down in Blenheim. So 5 others were injured in that crash, and through that investigation it was found that the driver of the truck that went into the back of their van had been on his phone, had failed to brake, so it was a full speed collision, and had a history of similar offences both in his truck and in his private vehicle. So a really great reminder and a good learning nationally around the importance of paying attention when we're driving in our vehicles, and also our PCBU requirements around ensuring that it's very clear to our staff around what is expected of them when they're driving our vehicles. So one point of clarification we will take out of this is we do say in here prohibiting the use of cell phones. Clarification to make there is prohibiting the handling of cell phones. So all of our vehicles are set up around hands-free systems. And our vehicle policy is quite clear around the different options around the use of phones in the vehicle. So pulling over, delaying that call till later, things like that, and obviously setting up our hands-free systems before we go. But it's a great opportunity given we've just reviewed our vehicle policy as well through our property and fleet team around how we use our vehicles, our cell phones when doing that. The second point is just around our assurance programs. So we're still on track with our Tier 1 and 2 governance leadership walkarounds. I was actually lucky enough to go out earlier this month with Greg Ryan into Oraki Karako around our geothermal risk and see how he operates in that space. We'll also ask some really great questions of the people who do that work for us. And I think it was quite eye-opening for both of us in our car conversations back and forth around how we can take learnings from different directorates them into our work as well. On a wider assurance basis too, we're still on top of our event reviews and really starting to build that into the training programs that are supplied to our managers, as well as the coaching we do with them in that space. We've also had a number of sort of risk-specific assurance activities, both around traffic management on some of our sites. So we've had Te Aroha and Paeroa as well. We're looking into that space, as well as here at Ward Street around hazardous substances as well. So some of the councillors may have seen us, I think it was last month, downstairs, a lot of high-vis, looking at our hazardous substances storage for flammables on the site. So we're currently undergoing a certification for the site around our thresholds. So those are going well in that space. And then just around some of our lead indicators, we're looking at how we can pull more of those dashboards together to create a bit more visibility in those spaces around how those assurance activities are feeding back into our things like our management system. So yeah, really great work happening in that space. But welcome to any questions. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. Councillor Nicol.
Thanks very much for the report. It was good in the Risk and Assurance Committee to receive the detail on the Safe Plus audit. Just wanted to comment, it'd be good to see how we might do the high level in this as things progress, to see how many things have been closed out and when. And with there was a bit of focus on the extension of the walkarounds to the senior leadership team. So I wonder whether, this being a monthly report, it might make sense to move away from the annual data on the walkarounds, but more towards monthly and maybe a tiny bit more depth. A suggestion, but that is all for the new council.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Dylan, just a couple of quick questions, and I'm not sure whether you will have the detail, but with the EAP services, we note 70 individuals used it. Is that 70 different individuals, or do we track perhaps, just 3 or 4 of them coming back and using it more than once? Do we actually track that?
Yeah, I need to confirm how that data is set up in terms of if it's by application or by request or by person. But yeah, we can definitely come back to you on exactly how that data is broken down.
Okay, and the other one I had, I noticed some of the reports we've seen over the last couple of years has been eye strain, and that seems to have gone off. So that's obviously ended an issue that has ended.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing issue that we'll always manage around ergonomics in particular, and I think building that into things like our ergonomic assessments that Nawai and myself do around the site as well. It can be quite personal around the different parts of the office. We've obviously got hush lighting zones as well. We've just done a move of 2 of our sections swapping over, so there's been a bit of an adjustment phase there. Even for myself, sitting by some of the windows, learning what's available to us, and I think part of that conversation is connecting the workers with, hey, we do have some of these blinds that we can drop down. We have a vision policy around getting our eyes tested and whatnot as well. So yeah, it's working with those individual employees around that. And getting people to report things as well, because I think sometimes we can see a lot of rumours coming around the organisation of, oh yeah, no, the lighting in this area is not particularly well, but if that's reported through Dampstra, then we investigate that and see what we can do.
Okay, no, thanks for that feedback. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other, Councillor Dunbar Smith.
Does the eye testing apply to councillors as well?
Oh, I'd have to come back to you on that one. Yeah. Pretty good for the new council inductions.
After I don't know how many thousands and thousands of pages of reading over a triennium. I know my prescription has changed over the last 6 years, that's for sure. All right. Any other questions for Dylan? All right, so we'll just make note of that suggestion and also come back with that additional insight on the EAP services. Great.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Oh, yeah. I've got a mover in Councillor Marr, second in Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now we're going to move to item 7.3. This is on page 110. Of course, this has been a long time coming. Long time coming. So we have Bruce, McAuliffe, and Chris to talk to us about the hearing panel recommendations on the proposed Waikato Regional Council plan. Now, this has been workshopped previously, so councillors are familiar with what has come out of the panel in regards to recommendations, but I'll turn it over to you, Bruce, to take us through what you would like to take us through.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, this report's a culmination of 2 years of hard work by the coastal policy staff and by the hearings panel on the proposed coastal plan submissions. So we bring today for your adoption as decisions the recommendations of the hearings panel, independent hearings panel, is attached to the report. And I know it's very lengthy and very long, but that's their full report, including the reasons.
Hence for the eye strain.
Yeah, yeah. We have had the report independently legally reviewed. There are no matters that were identified that have any legal risks that would prevent council from notifying adopting the report. And staff have also done an analysis and identified some minor issues for correction, which we've had checked legally and can be done under clause 16(2) of the RMA. So it's all in order. The report's all there for your consideration. And yeah, the staff and the hearings panel have done a tremendous job and have worked very hard to get to this point. So
yes, huge amount of effort.
Yeah,
huge amount of hours.
Yeah.
Lots of engagements, and I really do commend those who have gotten us to this point. Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, thanks for the report. On page 114, I just wondered if you could give us a bit of flavour around the top bullet point on that page in terms of the recommended changes. I did try to fight my way through the full document, but I had trouble sort of getting to the right place. So can you just give us a sense or a bit of flavour on what those changes were?
Sorry, page 114 in the council report.
Yes, that's right. And the very top bullet point, which says the panel has recommended several changes to the provisions to better recognise the coastal environment and give better effect to the NZCPS.
I'll hand over to Chris to answer the specifics of the question, Councillor.
Kia ora, good morning. Thank you. This particular matter is it's a theme that went through many parts of the hearings, just around, although it is a regional coastal plan and only has rules that cover the wet part of the sea. There are certain policies that can provide direction within the inland, within the coastal part of the terrestrial environment. So the hearings panel, they just tried to line them up so they were consistent across the document, as certain chapters, as notified, were a little bit unaligned.
So was it making a better connection with the coastal zone as in relation to the marine system? Because the plan starts with the water, but in the NZPCN, CPS, the definition of coastal is way broader. Is that what that is getting at, is it?
Yes, but the coastal policy statement deals with the coastal environment, which includes the coastal part of the land.
Yeah.
Whereas this regional coastal plan really only governs Takatai Moana, foreshore and seabed matters. And we don't want to inappropriately address things in the coastal plan that are better addressed in district plans or in the review of our freshwater plan.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. And just following on from that, if I might, the section directly below that, the Ecosystems and Indigenous Biodiversity chapter is recommended to set out the appropriate objectives and policies that apply coastal-wide in the coastal-wide section. Is that entirely within the water?
Yes.
And so the vegetation management being referred to is presumably mangroves?
Mangrove.
Kelp beds? I hope you're not controlling the kelp beds.
Mangroves, salt marsh, and exotic vegetation.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's very helpful. That's all I needed to know. Just get it straight in my own mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It did highlight, didn't it, Warren, some of the challenges within the legislation of where those interactions between the coastal environment and the coastal environment directed, and we ideally have liked to do in some situations, but the reality of.
Yeah, just following up on that, and we did have a number of submissions that spoke to further up and further into the harbours, further up the rivers and estuaries and stuff like that. So yeah, it was trying to take into account some of those.
Yeah, because the real question is, when will the full coastal zone be accommodated in a plan? It's the real question.
Yeah. And if I could just add, Madam Chair, so once again, thank you very much to all the staff and that and all the effort that's gone in over quite a number of years. It hasn't just been the last few. And I think we had a really robust process, and it's great to see it finally at the stage to pass through council and get out there and be notified. And thank you to those councillors that did reach out to me and question that. I was happy for my reading of it where we'd landed, so I appreciate them making the effort to come out and work that out. So thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted you to comment on appears to be a tightening of restrictions around aquaculture outside of Wilson's Bay, and also in relation to scientific trials. Move from controlled to restricted discretionary. Page 115.
Yes, councillors Kneebone and Meher will know far more about this than me, but there were issues, submitters raised issues that the controlled activity status didn't contain enough restrictions to prevent trials occurring in sensitive areas, areas where they wouldn't be appropriate. Restricted discretionary is still easier than full discretionary, and the industry know how that works. I'm expecting a lot of the aquaculture provisions to be appealed by the industry.
That pretty much sums it up. We I think from memory, Warren, the term trials could cover such a broad array of things. We just felt that it should be appropriate because it's restricted discretion to the things that the trial could impact. Yeah. But I forgot what your other question was now.
Oh, that was it. Oh, and then the second question is in page 113. If you'd just like to comment, panel has recommended controls on fishing methods, particularly dredging, bottom trawling, data seining outside identified benthic areas. Just if you'd like to comment on that at all, that's all.
It's a big issue. It's a new matter. I can say without any doubt, this will probably attract the most number of appeals on the plan. It's it's definitely clear from the ecological evidence that these fishing methods are having an impact on the ecological value of the Hauraki Gulf. The provisions, the map that was adopted is the same as one of the options for the MPI fisheries proposed restrictions under the fisheries plan. And it's new water. It's new waters for us. Both existing fishing restrictions in regional coastal plans, Northland, well, Bay of Plenty, sorry, 3 actually, and Tasman. They were all inserted during the appeal process by the court, not by the hearings panel. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out going through the appeals.
Yeah, and I know that item 35, any submitter may appeal the council's decision. So I just wanted to thank our councillors for the work they've done on this. But we passed today. We're not at the end of the process yet, I presume.
Nope. It's far more to go.
Yeah, just picking up on
You gotta
your-
love an RMA process,
Yeah.
eh?
Just picking up on your earlier point, Ben, that that obviously you'll be aware that a lot of those or all of those aquaculture farms, et cetera, have had their consents extended right out up to 30 years. So yeah, basically that overrides some of that. And we did look at the scientific trials and stuff like that, having the possibility to have as much impact as a existing farm. Hence the tightening around regulations. Was it information submitted on that type of thing? So
Great. Hey, thank you very much for that. Yes, go ahead.
Look, really trivial and but nerdy, but I found a couple of typos just accidentally yesterday. Can you guys do that after we've approved today, or do we have to do it now?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you could.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, I'll show them to you later.
Great.
Oh,
Just
microphone.
ask a question, and I'm not
Mhm.
trying to deliberately exclude someone, but because of the involvement of the two councillors as commissioners, are they standing aside from the vote? I just don't want anybody challenging the decision should you be involved, that's all.
Yep. Right.
Second.
Right, we've got a mover in Councillor Smith and a second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. Just before I put the motion, though, do want to acknowledge the hearing panel as a whole. We had our independent chairperson and Greg Hill. We had Vicky Morrison Shaw and Hugh. How do you say Hugh's last name? Leo Snyder. But also would like to specifically acknowledge Councillor Marr and Councillor Kneebone. These hearing processes can be long and at times tedious, and there is extensive reading and extensive expertise that goes into contributing to what we hope is a fantastic document that now doesn't descend into years and years of appeal processes. Because it is interesting when you think about how long, how much preparation, how much workshopping, how much engagement with the community goes into getting a document to this point, and yet we are still not finished. But I do want to really acknowledge Councillor Kneebone and Councillor Marr for your efforts in this space. So,
First, they haven't delivered as a PC1, have they?
all right, we've got a mover and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion passed.
Thanks, Council, for the support. Greg will be very happy. Yeah.
Yes. Outstanding. Okay, we're going to skip ahead to item 7.5, just because we don't have one of the externals available for 7.4. So we'll move to item 7.5. This is on page 158, the Regional Economic Development Strategy. If we, sorry,
Excuse me,
did I
Madam Chair.
skip ahead too quickly? Okay, yep, we can do that. we can do that. We'll move forward then to item 7.6, the strategic direction progress reports. Am I on the right page? 163. 163.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, councillors. Very pleased to present this report. This is the final assessment of our 3 years against our strategic goals. You will be very familiar that our goals are long-term and milestones toward even longer-term goals. Congratulations on achieving one of them, for example, today with your coastal plan. That started 10 years ago, and you might well have another 2 years with appeals. But today is a really important milestone along the way, and that's the long-term, far-reaching nature of the work the Regional Council does. If we could move on, please, Dave. So we adopted the strategic direction in March 2023 with 6 goals. They're up there: water, biodiversity, coastal and marine sustainable development infrastructure, community connections, and transition to a low emissions economy. In the report, we have done an assessment starting on page 3 of this report. I'm not sure what it is in your agenda. And it shows you have made excellent progress against the goals you set yourself at the beginning of the term. Just wanted to point out, for example, in the water priority, with your water security strategy achieved and now in the implementation phase, I think you can take great pride in the partnership work for leveraging investment in the catchment and river restoration work. New fencing over this period, for example, 534 kilometres, 303 kilometres of stream bank fencing. Just shy of 2 million native plants have been planted in steep erosion-prone areas. You've got 3,778 hectares of land retired. And the other thing we've got, as you know, you've had reports from stakeholders who really value the support and the funding to help them achieve these outcomes. Biodiversity and biosecurity. In response to your community, you increased funding, and now you have more than 60 biodiversity groups involved in conservation projects and restoring biodiversity across our region. More than 70 coastal areas are supported to improve our dunes. And for every $1 you've invested, you get $3 to $5 returned in biodiversity enhancements. Coastal and marine, well, again, congratulations, big milestone. The goal was to actually develop that forward-facing coastal plan with your communities. There were other goals with respect to understanding sensitive coastal environments, and you have the most extraordinary research project underway to understand what happens from the mountains to the sea and how can we protect and enhance those areas for future generations. Sustainable development and infrastructure. This has been a huge area, as you know, thanks also to the funding from the government to help with the infrastructure projects. The infrastructure strategy that you adopted was actually recognised by audit as being one of the best they'd seen because it outlined the issues so well, but also looked forward 50 years to how to address these over the long term. Transport, some fantastic statistics, and that's in our community connections. And I was struck by the Meteor, that new service was put on in 2023. And what was the figure? Something like 1.27 million trips in 2 years. That is actually meeting the goal you set yourself at the beginning. And then the transition to low emissions economy. We had a number of goals in there, and this will be ongoing. It's about bringing communities together. But where we can affect change, we have, and we have done very well with actually creating the framework for how we can enhance biodiversity, leverage biodiversity credits and carbon trading, but also support others to understand how we can do that across our region. Meantime, we continue to manage what we can manage by reducing our emissions across all our corporate services and our activities. Also included in the report, the Chief Executive's KPIs. Now, these were the goals that you set through your Chief Executive for the organisation to achieve year on year to contribute to these goals. These cover both the strategic priorities and also the corporate activities along our corporate systems, the way that we work together, our corporate culture, and as reporting to Finance and Business Services has shown, all those measures have shown improvement. Excellence, innovation, and Te Māori. Customer has been largely unchanged, but that did have a big uptick very early on. And we are continuing to work on culture, which perhaps needs another boost. Would you mind moving on, please, Dave? And the next one, please. So just to wrap up, one of the KPIs you set the Chief Executive was to have an independent review of our corporate services. How well are we performing as an organisation? And there was a lot of feedback on that, but I've just pulled out the one about your strategy. And it said strategic priorities are well articulated, clear goals throughout the reports and key documents, ensuring good alignment of strategy with activities. But, and this is the but that we're all very familiar with, there are too many transactional goals, measures. That was the let's respond to Lagoimas within the time frame. Too transactional. Let's have more stretch. And also, we've all commented on the challenge of actually tracking progress because we don't have very clear milestones. So, next slide, please. Dave. This is our opportunity for improvement in the next strategic direction, certainly an area of focus where we will get really crisp on our goal setting. And we will also look to increase our opportunities for sitting with Council to track progress and adjust where necessary. So just quickly stepping through what that will look like. We'll start the new strategic direction with the new Council early or late October, early November, and that will take us through to March 26. Now, it's important that we can reach a position to adopt by then because we start planning the next LTP about that time. And as you're familiar with, the strategic direction informs what we are going to fund through the LTP. The greater specificity in goal setting, getting a single source of progress reporting based on those agreed milestones. And then to help inform these strategic discussions, we have recently updated the Waikato Trends and Opportunities report, which is due for publication. And Dave has some draft copies here that you're very welcome to review, take away, and provide feedback for, so that we can have that ready for the new Council in a few weeks' time. Final slide, please, Dave. Thank you. Here's the timeline. I hope you can see that. So we started looking at the issues and opportunities for the region within the global context. In June, we spoke with focus groups, subject matter experts, and had a stakeholder workshop. And we've got this draft report now ready for your consideration. Interested in your feedback on the 5 scheduled workshops for strategic development. So the first one would be a scene setter, the context setting based on the evidence and opportunities report. Then we can start thinking about the visioning, like what do you want for that 50-year horizon and what would we do to step back? Thinking about our issues and opportunities further there and priorities that will come through from 14 different people who will have different views and you'll have areas where you align. And this is our opportunity to have those conversations. third workshop will actually be looking at, well, what are our trade-offs and our priorities so that we can start shaping up the strategic direction. We'll come back, we'll review, we'll stress test, and we'll give ourselves some real exercise with the SMART goals, because this area has to be our area of improvement. And then there'll be a fifth workshop should we need time to refine the work. So that's the plan, and thank you. And again, thank you for your support for the past 3 years, and welcome comment.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive report and reminder to Council on how much progress we have made over the last 3 years. All right, I've got Councillor Nicol, Hughes, Strange, and Smith. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Karen. I totally agree in that we've made great progress. And I learned probably only 18 months ago so that not every council has this strategy-led work stream and budgeting process, and so I've come to appreciate it much more, you know, not as ad hoc and not as reactive as some. So I have gotten through the process twice now and learned something each time, and have communicated with you my reflections, which I can see and in there, which I really appreciate. Some of which were, you know, getting more specific on the goals, because while some might be marked as achieved here, I don't feel they're achieved based on what I thought, but then I'm very aware of there are, you know, 14 and we didn't write it down specific enough. So if we get more specific in future, that'd be really cool, because it stops the different expectations really stretching the staff in different ways, right? And then also one was about having the councillors a lot closer to the strategy along the way, consciously checking in if we're moving at the right pace for what we were thinking. And also the fact that we're in a really fast changing world, and my challenge is how the council might adapt itself to adjust its strategic direction enough throughout the 3 years before you set a new one. Because I've noticed through my participation in risk and assurance, new things have come up like AI, trust in institutions. I would these days make a strategic rock of its own to get councils and local government in general performing better. But that's perhaps an opportunity for future. And just great progress. And it looks like you're on a slightly adjusted new process going forward. So best of luck to the new council. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, Karen, thanks for your report. It's very informative and educational. Thank you. A couple of questions. You mentioned a $1 invested, we get a $4 to $5 return. I'd like to see something to support that analysis, if I may, please, if you could send that through to me. The reason I'm asking that is that early on in the triennium, I went to a project which we were working on up in the Thames estuary, where there was been party to the creation of a bird sanctuary. And I think it was Grant who was in charge of that, the project manager, and he told me at the time that this project is delivering $100 million worth of economic value to the region through the ability of these birds to be able to breed. And so I asked for a copy of the report, and I'm still waiting.
Okay.
Jelly Beach. So, thanks, Robbie. So, look, I'm interested in these things because if it's true, and I'm not saying it's not true, that's a major asset which is of value to the region, and I think we should be, you know, promoting that as such. That the regional council's been responsible for creation of such. And my second point is that I'm aware that regional council's got blocks of dirt around the region, some of which are regenerating, some of which have been harvested. And I don't know whether you're aware of their current status, but I'd like to make sure that those areas that we do control are fully planted as quickly as possible, and that they are registered with the powers that be, so that we can claim carbon credits on those particular plantings, because there's value in that on both to the regional council and also to our ratepayers. So I just want to make sure that we're maximising those opportunities. I don't know who's responsible for it, but I'm passing it across to you to follow up.
I'm smiling, Councillor Hughes, because thank you. we do have the framework to guide that. We've actually registered for the ETS. We're also looking at biodiversity credits, and we're very excited about the opportunities. We've mapped all of Regional Council's land so that we know where these opportunities lie.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Karen, for the report as well. Really excited by the stats that you shared around, the progress that we have made over the last 3 years. And it's always exciting to see that strategy played out in the short term, but keeping that long term in mind as well. Fantastic results in the public transport with the Meteor. In the next triennium, the Rotatuna Express will be another fantastic way to show that increased patronage, accelerated as well. I think it's really important, along with the strategy, that we have really ambitious goals. And I was wondering, we do track KPIs, which tend to be quite short-term focused. I was wondering about SPIs as well, so strategic performance indicators, that visionary, that long-term focused, sort of monitoring the intent of the direction, which would complement the KPIs as well. I believe that that's really important, so we're not just trapped into short-term thinking, but that we are looking long-term strategically as well. So, which a lot of our planning documents are within transport mostly. We have the 3-year, but 10-year and 30-year plans. So, just wondering about development of SPIs.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. That's indeed the intention, and we have staff a meeting on Friday to start workshopping that. And we're looking at this planning horizon being out to 2075, so 50 years, and then bringing it back.
Fantastic. Thanks for raising that, Councillor Strange, because of course we are here as a way to facilitate the future planning for generations to come, not just for the next 3 years. Well done, raising that, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Karen. And look, I sense your passion in this area of the business. But one of the things that concerns me from the experience coming in 3 years ago was that this pre-work had obviously been done, and it left me with a sense of predetermination and corralling council into a very narrow way forward. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't want to go there. But the reality is, this is council's strategic direction, and it's something that, and I don't want to campaign here, but it's something as Councillor Story will know that I've been saying on the campaign trail, is that this is a critical piece of work for the incoming council. So councillors, we really need to understand, because throughout this last 3 years, we've had comments that that's not what we intended from our strategic direction. Therefore, it's incumbent on us, if we are back, and for those who are here, to actually understand what they want and the direction that they want to take council, and be visionary out to that horizon, 30, 50 years, whatever. And if we do something that's not what we intended, that's our fault. It's not the staff's fault. We didn't give them the direction. So I really urge you, because this is the critical piece of work that council sets itself up to go for the next 3 years. And I think that's not well understood. Certainly wasn't well understood on the campaign trail. So I just urge you, I thank Karen for her work, but Karen, it is council who has to make this decision. And whilst I accept that we need to understand what our community wants, and that's who we are here for, we also need to be courageous in our decision making and the direction forward. So I just urge you all to seriously think about this, get the piece of work that Karen has done, her team, and take it on board so those who are back can get up and running very quickly. Thank you.
Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, thank you for your report. For the new council, it's going to be interesting because we've gone through a couple of restructures as well in that time with ICM and finance and others. So it's going to be holding Chris accountable that those directorates now achieve what we want them to in that restructure in the next 18 months and 2 years to show that that restructure was worth doing. And the other, so that's not a question, it's just an overview, but as a new council coming in, we've asked for that, and Chris has done that, or assessed those directorates, and they've been restructured. So the other thing is with catchment restoration, I think the fragmentation of other groups out there, and myself and Pamela talked about this in the past, we've got to bring them in more, that we're doing something strategically instead of fractionally. And I've like Dairy NZ and others that are getting central government money, we need to bring them in-house, that we do something strategic. And I think farm plans is a part of that as well, that we use, instead of farmers doing little catchment restoration bits on their own property, that the capital or the investment they're doing there actually goes into something greater that achieves something much more. I think in that space, we've got to do a lot more in the next 3 years to bring, that in, and that we have a total 30-year or 40-year outlook. Like if we want to do something on the Waihau, like Emily's been talking about for 20 years since I think she's been in that space, to do catchment restoration from Blue Springs to the Opal Springs, that's a 30 or 40-year project, and we need to get everybody in to do it over the, and so I look forward to the new council, and that's one of my projects that I'd like to see more catchment restoration on the Waihau, Piako and Waitoa rivers, but we've got to do it at a cost-effective and a model that ratepayers can afford. And I totally get what Chris was saying earlier about the $5, where does the $5 come from? And that's from all the other external stakeholders, and that they do their free time and everything else, and like investments from corporates and everybody else to get to that $5. Totally get it, but yeah, there's a lot of work to do there, and I hope we can do a lot better in that space. Yeah, that's just a point of view, so you don't have to answer it.
No, but thank you for your comments, because it's exactly what we're hearing from stakeholders around the region.
Councillor Downard.
Thanks, Karen, for a report. I'd like to see just one more step put into that timeline. Is that I'd like the new councillors that come into the new Trioleum, that they spend a day in this place by themselves, and just to get to know each other. We brought that up in the review, or I think I did, and I think that was an important thing that we kind of missed out in this Trioleum. And, you obviously have some experienced councillors that come back and new councillors that come in. And I think we need a day to get to know each other all around this table, just the councillors that have been elected. And then, out of that, I'm sure there would become stuff that's from the councillors that have been here before, that could bring up stuff that they think is important. And then we could have a day after that, because I think we need 2 days where it's with staff and given a brief overview of what important things that are carried over. Because some things, being a first term council, a lot of things I didn't know until suddenly they came up 2 years later. Oh, I didn't know we were funding this, or that was important. So I think it's a good time to brief all the new councillors or the existing councillors that come back on, after we've got to May, a day to get to know each other, and then the next day just to know what the important rollovers and, especially what Rob said, that's important, that could come up, because that could change our whole view on the strategic development for the long term, and what's important to do first up. So that's just, I think it's important.
Madam Chair, if I could just comment on that. So we have heard that feedback from several councillors, and so I don't know it's been sent out, Dave, but we are looking to see if we can program a new elected member only day very early on, as early as we can get it. I think the proposal at the moment is just to get everybody together, just so whoever gets elected can meet each other. There's probably a next thing where and a few of us just need to have some time with yourselves, just to give some high level things, and then probably have a scheduling an elected member only day. It's not a big time between the declaration day where the results are finally known, which is I think Thursday the 16th, and trap forward in days to the Wednesday the 29th, which is the first council meeting of the triennium, where you pick the chair and whatever. So we're trying to squeeze it in. But what we've also heard is executive don't saturate people too much too early on, to give a bit more space for that thinking, I think, that you've asked about there. But we're definitely trying to schedule in a day where new elected members can spend time with each other.
Very good. I've got Councillor Dunbar-Smith, Kneebone, and then finally to wrap up. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to agree entirely with Councillor Noel Smith that I felt the last time we had new councillors, yes, but we had a kind of, I thought, a driven process in a particular direction. I remember them meeting at Geelong, which seemed confused, and then we had the meeting here where you had to put stickers on the board about what you were going to fund or not, or defund it. It would have been better to have a private meeting first and get to know the councillors and their thinking, or being locked straight into policy. I also concerned that the strategic process that we have is quite vague. I mean, they're vague things. I find that the CEO's KPIs are a much more effective driver of what we want done and what can be monitored. And then just slightly tongue-in-cheek question for the Chief Executive. I see the KPI not delivered is SIDF. Would he like to comment on that? We had a meeting earlier.
My comment that the whole point of the SIDF trial was to get some learnings. And I think the biggest learning was about what goes into KPIs and how they get written.
And they're still
Very
learning.
good. All right. Councillor Kneebone.
Firstly, I've got a deal for you. It's called the Waikato Waipa Restoration Strategy.
Yes.
So I'm going to get Greg to print a copy out for you, and it's a really good blueprint for what you could probably, because it's probably due for an update. But
Well, Emily's already done one 10 years ago, by what I understand.
it's probably a bit different, I think, to the Waikato Waipa one. The Waikato Waipa one's much better.
Wisteria.
Are you biased?
Just noting Ben and Robbie's, your comments, Noel, and you that you've been conveying that for a while, but just want to understand, because to me this seems like a good approach, this plan that's going forward to do this stuff. Are you kind of happy that what's laid out here allows us to focus in on some of the stuff that you felt didn't go right properly last time? Because that's kind of what the intent of phase is.
Point is important that you almost need a meeting, and not just a 10-minute meeting of councillors. It's like a day set aside, maybe at Geelong or somewhere.
Look, the foundation, and you just can't go from the wilderness and go in 14 different directions.
No, I know, but what Karen's asking for
I think
here
it's sound, but I think for me, the feeling that it was corralled and we went forward, and look, I bought into that. I look back and say to myself, yeah, you didn't do that well. And so this time round, I think Mikhail and a number of us, as Chris has said, have said that let's get to know each other a bit better. Let's get to know their aspirations and so on. And let's start to understand what it is that makes us tick. Because there will be new ones, there's going to be surprises. So let's just step back and say, okay, we've done this up to date. What is it that we need to take into consideration, and then work together to take it forward? And if it's more detail, as you've alluded to, Karen, it's just a little bit more for me. It's not drastically different, but it's just a little bit more before we get too far. Thanks.
Right, cool.
That's hugely helpful, because that's exactly what staff would really appreciate from the council coming in. Time for you to get to know each other and agree what you could agree on, and then help us understand where we might have differences.
Yeah, it's on the same vein. I called Chris McClay a few days ago to give that same suggestion Mike raised. And I'll be emailing it through him shortly. I think one thing is that the desire for this time alone is that the community voice comes through first before we become, because we're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed coming in, whether we're returning or not. But then when you get the top-down stuff of central government requires this, and these are our limitations or our spheres of influence, as well as these are our existing work streams, it really narrows the thinking. And so I think we want that creative time together. And the other point was it wouldn't hurt to schedule 2 days or at least 2 afternoons or so, because there's actually also another piece of work that's come up in council only time previously around having direction together, figured out informally first on how we operate, whether our videos are on or off when we're online, what calendars looks like, etc. And if we do that informally together, then we will probably give much better direction, because if we're sitting in this room and doing it kind of piecemeal, individual ideas get drowned quite quickly from the formality of how we sit. So I think it would be really great if the CE could get an appointment out, at least for 1 day, maybe 2, to the candidates as well as a placeholder, so that they don't miss out. And that's mainly it. Great. Of course, but it's always nice when it's very inclusive to come from here and to have the venue and the food, perhaps, to make it not a bit on an even keel. Yeah,
Great. I do want to move on.
Madam Chair, the one thing I found very useful was when you had a table that said 25% cut, 10% cut, no cut, and then the legislation which we were mandated to deliver and how we had to deliver it, item 1 to 4. That was a PowerPoint presentation that was useful, but completely hard to follow at the time when you didn't know what you were doing. So, yeah.
All right. I think that there, councillors, I'm encouraging you to take opportunities between now and the end of the triennium to feed through to Karen and to Chris, and also to Molly, in terms of what you think the scenario is, the setup, the structure that is going to get the best out of the new council and inform the decision making, because it is, as you've mentioned, it's quite a tight time frame, and it can be like drinking from a fire hose. So there is a natural tension in how much new information, understanding of the significance of the workload and the work programs that sit before Waikato Regional Council, as well as the legislative parameters that we operate under. So I encourage you to continue to feed those through, but we do have a structure that's before us, and I do really appreciate you taking us through the progress that we have made on that strategic direction. While there may be a few views around the table that it may or may not have hit the mark, when I tested it with councillors, it must have been about 5 months ago, by and large, there was support for what was put forward, and there was note of the progress we have collectively made. So well done. I've got mover and councillor Nicol. Have we got that?
Happy to second if we don't have a second.
I've got a mover in councillor Nicol and a second in councillor Strange. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we're going to next go back to item 7.4, but we are going to take a brief 10-minute break before we go back to 7.4. So we will adjourn the meeting. It's 10:47. Sorry. No, we're going to go back to 7.4. Yeah. All right, so we'll adjourn the meeting. It's 10. All right, it's 11:05. We will reconvene the meeting and we are on item 7.4, page 121. This is the, sorry, amended Te Arawa River Iwi Trust Joint Management Agreement. Molly.
Kia ora, Madam Chair, Morena councillors. Might I just check that we have our legal advisor, Kate, online? Yep, I've had the signal. She's online. Welcome, Kate. Bit of a tag team for you today, but I might start by setting the scene and grounding our kōrero in the legislative context first. So just a reminder, the Ngāti Tūwharetoa Raukawa and Te Arawa River Iwi Waikato River Act 2010 places a duty on ourselves and Te Arawa River Iwi Trust to have a joint management agreement in place. The Act also prescribes the minimum content of the JMA, so joint arrangements for monitoring and enforcement, RMA planning documents and consenting functions, as well as the process for addressing customary activities. Specifically for our kaupapa today, the Act also sets out how a JMA is to be reviewed and amended, with the last review taking place back in 2017. And so this current review is not just timely, but also overdue.
And those requirements that you just mentioned, those are already in existence in the existing JMA, correct?
Correct.
Nothing new.
Nothing new. So just very quickly touching on the review process that we've undertaken. In early 2024, the Co-Governance Committee kicked off the review process, and soon after, Council prioritised it also by setting a KPI for the CE to complete 2 JMA review processes. The process has been thorough and inclusive. It's included surveys of both governors and staff, followed by facilitated workshops. Draft amendments were then developed and tested with the relevant staff who are responsible for implementing the obligations, and also discussed through formal hui with the Co-Governance Committee. All councillors through that process have been kept across the process and also had access to the material, access to those meetings, but we've also had specific council workshops on the kaupapa as well, just to make sure that everybody is fully able to participate. And so thank you all for your contribution. You've been quite engaged through this review process, and hopefully you can see that the things that you've asked for are now reflected in the draft that is presented today. More recently, both Te Arawa River Iwi Trust and Council completed the legal review. And so I might just talk a little bit about the most recent workshop of Council and the legal review process. We have received, the list of most recent refinements requested by Council has been shared with Te Arawa River Iwi Trust, and you'll recall there were quite a number. Carrot have come back and accepted most of the further refinements. For example, removal of the broad partnership statement extending beyond the statutory obligations under the settlement legislation, which is at clause 1.1, instead favouring sticking to the tightly to statutory obligations only. A new clause with clear wording on resourcing, making it really clear that only the organisation responsible for any additional resourcing can approve it. At clause 7.3.3, clarifying that the JMA's area of interest applies only to the mapped boundary. And also at clause 10.2E, strengthened dispute resolution processes aligned with our terms for the Waiora Co-Governance Committee. There are 3 matters outstanding. They are outlined in the report. I won't go over it, but through the discussion that we're about to have, happy to dive into that detail. I just wanted to conclude before opening it up for discussion and questions that Kate, who's joined us, has provided formal legal advice confirming that what is presented today is legally robust. And so what we're asking from you today, Council, is to adopt the amended JMA as set out and to delegate the signing of the document to the CE and the co-chair of the Co-Governance Committee, so Chair Pamela Story. And this decision will essentially bring our review process to a conclusion. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Molly? I've got Councillor Downard.
So I'd like to move this, Madam Chair. I've been involved, obviously, this is one of my JMAs, pretty close to our my area, Rotorua and the Tiara River Trust. So been to all the workshops. It's not a huge, with the review, it hasn't changed a huge amount, as the conclusion virtually says it all. It's just kept up to ensure the agreement continues to be a living document. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Madam Chair.
Got a mover and Councillor Downard and a second and Councillor Clarkson. I am really pleased that we are going to retain the original signatories. I think that's really important. It is an acknowledgement of the history of this agreement, when it originated, who participated in that, and what the content was. So pleased with that. I've got Councillor Graff.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a bit curious. When did the terminology from joint management committees change to co-governance committees? I see the term used quite a bit on page 243 in summarising. I was just curious, how was that decision made to change the naming from joint management committees to co-governance committees? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Graff. As long as I've been around, and it's been since before 2012 when the JMA was signed, our committees have always been called co-governance committees, but there may well be some inter-use of the word JMA committees and co-governance committees, which may have led to a misunderstanding that perhaps in the past they were called JMA committees. They have always been called co-governance committees.
And they've always included co-governance aspects,
Correct.
So the legislation uses the terminology co-governance as well, so it does reflect the legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Thank you. So I was the one who was talking about best endeavours versus reasonable endeavours, and I think it doesn't really make much difference either on those. In terms of the resourcing, 4.3 seems to adequately cover the regional council that it is ultimately responsible for its own resourcing if it requires additional resourcing. The question I had for Kate was her issue about dispute resolution. When you come to item 10.E, dispute resolution 10, page 149, item E is actually better than what is actually in the Waiora committee, but what seems to be missing is a step that says between D and E. So you basically go from D if the dispute's not resolved within 30 days, and then it goes straight to council. In the Waiora, the interim step is at any point during the issue resolution process parties may appoint a facilitator. So, I mean, she's sitting both sides on this. I just wondered if we have her opinion and views on that.
Right?
Yes, and that was my point, I guess, with the dispute resolution procedure. And I understand what we've got now in the agreements reflects the wilder terms of reference and is in alignment with other co-governance arrangements. What I pointed out is purely from a legal perspective. The gap for me is that there is not necessarily a final resolution if the decision ultimately goes back to the respective organisations. Which is why I suggested that perhaps an independent facilitator or someone is appointed to resolve a dispute that can't be resolved. But I wasn't aware, Ben, that is in the wilder terms of reference as well. So Marley and I potentially could discuss including that step here.
Yeah,
which would resolve that issue for me as well. Yeah.
Well, except the point is, it's a step between the chief executives working on it and council. I wouldn't like to see a facilitator forcing council to make a decision subsequent to the council choosing not to.
Yes, exactly. And Marley pointed that out to me as well when, that was my suggestion, and that usually in our dispute resolution clause, because this clause is only invoked when there is a dispute that can't be resolved between the parties. You have a mechanism for final resolution.
Yeah, with the one that's in the Waiora is a facilitator, which is a step between D and E, not a dispute mediator that has a mandatory decision. I wouldn't like to see those in any of the JMAs.
Okay.
So the question is, do we need a facilitator? Does anyone else have a view? Otherwise, I'm happy with the document. It's been through the slots.
I'll provide my view, and I'm sure others will have their view as well. I don't believe that it's necessary to include anything at this late stage of the review process. It's not something that we have discussed with the Aroa River Iwi Trust, but potentially we could consider adding something along those lines at a future review date, if i.e. next term.
Sorry, I've got Councillor Marr and then Councillor Smith. Councillor Marr.
Yeah, I'll leave that there because mine was the same as Ben's, and I think I'm happy where Marley sort of landed with it, so I'll leave that there.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Ben spoke with me about this point earlier, and my thoughts are that sometimes we may not want to resolve a dispute. No, I'm not sitting on the fence, because sometimes it's in the best interest of the party who, so we don't have to have a resolution for everything. And this is a recommending body to council. It is not a decision-making body that tells council what to do. Let's put the whole thing in context. It's the council taking advice from a co-governance committee that meets once to 4 times a year, depending on the JMA, that oversight. The JMA is about the operational day-to-day work that council does and works with iwi. The governors look at what's been going on and come up with, hey, maybe we could do it a little bit differently, and recommends to council that they change direction. Let's put it all in context, please, and stop worrying about what might never happen. And a dispute resolution process is only when people who have been dying in the ditch over something that often will not be that dramatic when you stand back and have a cold light of day. So I think people understand what this is all about and why these agreements and why you have co-governance. Co-governance is about the board of directors of each, the councillors and the boards coming together, having a review and making recommendations to go forward. It is not about directing council what to do. So yeah, thank you.
Correct. All right.
Just to clarify, you're happy with E as it stands then?
Well, what we've heard from
It goes
Molly
forward
is
as
that,
is, yeah.
that we can, if future councils and our iwi partners feel a need to clarify this or tidy it up, that can be done during a future review.
The main thing, Madam Chair, is that we are talking to each other.
Yeah.
If you don't talk, that's when there's problems. And I'm sure we're always going to be able to talk.
All right. Okay, with that, I've got a mover and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried, unanimous. Thank you. Well done. Hey, thank you, Kate, for beaming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ka kite.
All right. So now we shall go to 7.5. And we have Tariq Ashraf. Am I saying your last name correctly? Ashraf? Ashraf. Why he said. All right, we've got Karen
Madam
and
Chair,
yes,
we haven't met Tariq officially
Yes.
yet, so perhaps you could give us a little bit of background on, yeah.
absolutely. We'll do
May
that. So
I
this is-
introduce the elusive Tariq Ashraf? Thank you. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Tariq to Council. Thank you, councillors, for enabling us to bring Tariq back to Regional Council. He was, in fact, with us in the strategy team from 2011 to 2018. And so it's a great pleasure to have him back. Tariq is our new Regional Economic Development Lead, and he'll be working with others to create the right conditions for economic growth and development in our region. He's got off to a great start already. He has a background in innovation systems, regulatory frameworks, tourism, freight, regional promotion and infrastructure and spatial strategy, and has also had experience in investment, to market, and bringing people to town to actually do good work and help create jobs. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to finish this term with Tariq telling you about what he's proposing for the new council with respect to regional economic development strategy. Over to you, Tariq.
Kia ora. Good morning, everyone. I just want to start off by saying I'm excited. I'm excited for this council. I'm excited for the region. And I'm excited because of both the strengths that the region has and the opportunities that are in front of it. Also the strengths of the council and the roles of the council in contributing to economic development, both what it already does and how it can help the region realise those opportunities as well. So I've just got 3 brief slides. I don't want to repeat what's in the paper. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read that, but provide a bit more context for that and build on that a little bit. And then obviously give yourselves the opportunity to have a discussion as well. So Dave, if we could maybe just go to the... So I thought it would be useful just to, I guess, recap what it is that we might mean by regional economic development. There are some points outlined in the paper in terms of some sort of criteria that we might look at in terms of doing something at regional scale. What does that mean? But what does economic development mean? There are different views, there are different interpretations about and different preferences about what that might look like. But some of the common features that we may wish to think about, which again sort of pulled out of the content of the paper already. This is about increasing prosperity, acknowledging that there is already a high level of prosperity in the region, a lot of strengths, as I said, but we can always do better. The ways that we may consider doing that and what has been a big goal nationally for a long time, and our biggest, I guess, economic prosperity challenge has been productivity. And for each of these points, I'll just comment that we can unpack them, and there's a lot sitting under each of them, but these are just high-level points. And another one I just want to mention is around nature. That we know that nature is critical in our region. It underpins the prosperity of our region already. And so because of that, we need to also make sure that as we go forward, that we're able to sustain that. Sustain how nature plays its role anyway, and how it supports the economic well-being, dare I say well-being, of the region as well. Just skip ahead maybe to the next slide, Dave. So as I mentioned, the council already has a number of roles that contribute to economic development. And considering the council's potential role in what is sometimes considered active economic development, is at the bottom of the list, because we've got a lot that we're already doing, a lot that we can perhaps do even more in some of those areas before we get to that stage. And we haven't thought about that, and you haven't thought about that yet. And so some of those things, and what the strategy, the regional economic development strategy, where there's a role for council, is clearly you're taking a role in regional leadership. This is a regional council. It does have functions at that scale, and it is important for the region to have a voice, and for the regional council to contribute to and express its view on what good looks like for the region as a whole. And in the case of the economic development strategy, there's a role then also in coordination and helping different actors in the region, different organisations, different groups to come together around the desire to have a single view, a single goal, and how we work towards that. And just the last slide then, Dave. And just picking up on some of the things that, I guess just repeating some of the things that Karen was mentioning earlier, if we look back on the role that the council has already played, and this is just over the last 12 months, and each of those functions that contribute to economic development, the Regional Council has, in terms of data, evidence and insights, released the progress indicators. It has coordinated the regional deal, the first regional deal proposal that went to government earlier this year. The transport area is important for economic development in terms of having, and particularly within the metro area, having people being able to move around efficiently, and public transport helps do that, both people and goods, actually. We do have a role which is important to, as I say, that nature-based economy with regards to pest management, preventing incursions, managing pests, are both vital activities for the economic activity that we already have. And we have actually been successful, again, it was mentioned earlier too, in helping to attract millions of dollars of additional resources to the region. So the council, as I say, should you all may wish to feel to share my sentiment that there is a lot to be confident about and a lot to look forward to in the coming term. So the strategy process that we've outlined in the paper at very high level shows that after the incoming council comes together, that process kicks off in earnest. That doesn't mean we're not doing anything now, we certainly are. And so we are continuing to engage with the different partners, current and potential, and those discussions are going very positively. So we'll be coming back to you with more information on that in the new term.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for your report, and great to see you back on board. It's fantastic. So just noting for councillors that what's proposed here is that the report is received and that council is noting the proposed approach to the production of the regional economic development strategy. So we're not approving a strategy here. We're just noting the approach that's been mapped for us. Councillor Hughes.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for your presentation, Tariq. I guess from my perspective, the most important thing for me from an economic point of view is protecting what we've actually got. And I see that as a critical role, but I don't see it mentioned in this report anywhere. And I'll reference to how I see that happening. I see you as being somebody who should be having an influence on council policy. Economic impacts of policy which we develop and try and implement can have both positive and negative impacts on the economy. And I think it's critical that both staff and councillors understand that, so that before we actually make decisions on making change, we understand what the potential impacts of that are. And I don't want to get into a political argument now, but basically I'm putting PC1 on the table as a classic example of that. I would like to see that our economic manager, if you like, you put yourself in that category, has some influence on our policy in terms of how we present to the courts on that front. As far as I'm concerned, economic policy should be driving council policy. So what's good for the economy is good for everyone. And it's nice to look, I totally agree in terms of trying to attract new enterprise into the region, but my big ask is that we protect what we've already got, because we have got a good base. You know, we've got 9% in New Zealand GDP. It's important that we don't let that slip. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
And I'd like to see that implemented in here. I think it's a critical part of the strategy, which is not there at the moment, but that's just my personal view.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yes, just to pick up what Councillor Hughes is saying, it would be useful to have an economic scan as part of the economic analysis. I was just going to ask, in terms of structure, how does Tariq's role fit alongside Blair Keenan, for example, and what is the integration there?
We all come together as cross-directorate groups to actually address these issues. So Blair and Tariq and Upa from the social and economic science team, they all work together, and they will be advising and supporting Tariq in the development of the strategy.
Are they all part of the same team?
We're in different teams.
Oh. So
but that's not a barrier, though, Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Essentially on his own writing this strategy, it's a sole operation to begin with.
No.
Okay. Cool.
You're knitting everything together.
Cool. Just in terms of the funding, the 604,000 for 2 years, that will cover both the strategy and the implementation plan production?
Correct.
Yes. And in terms of Tariq, Te Waka did some of this function in the past. How do you see the regional economic development strategy being different than that?
So Te Waka was an economic development agency, which delivered, as you said, a range of functions. How functions are delivered in the region is something that the strategy will need to look at. It's difficult to say at this stage, but well, it's impossible to say for me at this stage. But as you've said, we should do that scan first.
Right.
Who's doing what? What are the gaps? What are the opportunities? And then let's have a look at the best way to deliver on that.
Okay. And I think part of the scan was what is the potential for dairying at current or whatever those.
Correct. Yeah.
And in the discussions you've had to date, in the past, TAs that had economic development agencies of their own were often very protective of those and didn't necessarily like the region coming in on the top. How is that looking now? Have they changed their view?
Well, that may be a question better put to them directly, but what I can say is that in terms of the role and the regional council's role, it's definitely about complementing existing activities. It's absolutely not about trying to duplicate functions that are already taking place. In fact, it's about acknowledging the strengths that other parties bring, and how does the regional activity add value to that?
Because we know we've obviously got serious economic issues facing Tokoroa and those sorts of places with
absolutely
closures and energy fitting into that. And so
yes,
we can assist with those sorts of things, but not necessarily take over that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you. And thank you for your report. It's really great to see all the people who already do good work within the region in this space. So it's fantastic to see how you're pulling that all together. And assume that once we get our spatial plan, that this economic overlay will just add so much detail and information and gaps as well. My question would be similar to Ben's about those sub-regional disparities with, we've got high growth areas and then we've got others that are declining. How would we sort of look to even that out?
Well, so you mean the regional council?
Yeah. Alongside others.
Yeah, I think the rationale is there, that is definitely an issue. That's one of the points that's been made. Yeah. I think I don't want to say as an individual to you now, this is what the answer is, because why would we go through a strategy process if I could tell you everything now? So I'd rather acknowledge that that's definitely one of the things that we need to look at, and I guess recap that there are a range of actors that need to be involved, and let's get on board that process to find that answer pretty quickly.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm sure as constituent councillors, we'd appreciate the information that's really specific to our areas as well. Fantastic to hear from you. I'm hopeful that next training we see a bit more of this economic analysis through committees. And yeah, just also acknowledging that that diversification as well that needs to come through the economy. So acknowledge that dairy is one part of that, but looking for those new growth areas as well. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right, so we're receiving, sorry, Robbie. Councillor Cookson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just this point that Angela brought up there at the end there, that, we do want to add value to the economy, and if dairy isn't the one, if there's another land use that can be used that is more productive, but then we've got to have the rules in place to allow that to happen. So that's another issue with PC1 that's around at the moment, that if we're going to have value add to the economy of using our land for vegetable production or whatever else, we've got to have the rules that we can make that apply and be able to have an environment that we can contain those nutrients to that land and not go down our waterways. So I think there's a huge investment needed to, to look into doing that. Just the other night, I didn't realise, but we've actually got a little sawmill in Tahuna, 16 employees. They're talking about shutting the doors as well because they can't afford the energy price of running this sawmill is getting that high. That's an organisation that makes pallets to go in shipping containers to send product overseas. So this I think there needs to be a huge bit of investment into this timber industry of where we can actually make jobs in New Zealand without logs going on boats to go overseas to producing. We've got a huge, I don't know where we get the value add for, but I hope you're going to go down that rabbit hole and try and find something. We're working with government to find what we can do to put more Waikato people into jobs that are going to lose jobs in the near future. So I think that's a really big key one. Like forestry is most probably one of our bigger employees in the region, and it's getting its throat cut so much at the moment that we've got to do better in that space. So I hope you're going to work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
you.
If I could just quickly comment, picking up your question and also Councillor Strange's, in terms of the feedback that you're getting from businesses or what you're hearing, I would personally really value you sharing any information you get with those sorts of discussions that you had. As elected councillors, you're having discussions with lots of really important stakeholders, and you have an important role to play yourselves. So please, when you have the opportunity, yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
All right, I mean, I've got Councillor Dunbar-Smith and Councillor Hughes. You guys have spoken already, and we are just receiving this and noting. So happy to let you go again, but just move it.
Sure.
Let's move along.
I've got his
Let's
too.
move along. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Oh, just a quick question. Obviously, it's to Karen, in terms of the energy strategy, have we hired someone to do that, and when is that due to be completed? Because obviously it links in. Yeah.
Yes, it is happening, and there is some work being done with respect to the various scenarios and the inputs to ensure that there is security of supply and affordability of supply ongoing. I think from memory that's due to come back in draft March 26. That's right? Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yes, I saw him walking out. A whole bunch of paper. Said he was working on it today. Councillor Hughes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I won't take too much time. Tariq, I recently had an opportunity to meet with the mayor of Tokoroa and some of the business people down there, and the management of Finleith, and also previous managing director of New Zealand Forest Products was in the group as well, who's a good friend of mine. So I've got a good understanding of the reasons why it's closing down, all right? And it's not the energy crisis, I can assure you of that. So I'm very happy to share that information with you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. We've got a mover and Councillor Smith. Second, Councillor Dunbar-Smith. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Can I just
Thank
make
you
a
very
comment?
much, Tariq. I'm saying your name wrong. Tarek. Thank you so much for joining the team, and looking forward to this progressing.
Just
Yes?
before they go, as the mover of that motion, the report was heartening. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Well done. Okay. Let's go to item 7.7. This is the Waikato Tainui Climate Alliance. We've got Tutahanga Douglas as a staff member to take us through this, and I will go to Councillor Nicol shortly. If you want to, who wants to preface it first?
I can do it if you like. We discussed it yesterday at the JMA with Waikato Tainui. They've seen it a few times, a fair number of times over the last year, and it had come across the Climate Action Committee as an FYI back in May, I think. Tutanga has been working well on forming relationships, closer relationships with staff at other district and city councils nearby that are in the Waikato Tainui Rohe. And so what's been really cool about that is that they've found some really good efficiencies in doing that. So I prompted the idea because in my experience in the climate space and my experience in the JMA space, the climate manager from Waikato Tainui was letting me know that she was having meetings, multiple meetings across the iwi relationship teams, the climate teams and the civil defence teams on things that are very much interrelated. And so the obvious opportunity to find some efficiencies was to see whether the councils as a whole could provide that service of working with Waikato Tainui in a way that's more efficient for them by doing so together. And they've been really enthusiastically coming together and doing this, seeing for themselves the benefits of working together, the saving time, thereby saving rates for all our constituents involved across any of those areas. and getting better access to Waikato Tainui, which, we know resource-wise quite difficult at times in some of our streams. So the benefit of this work's pretty much largely been achieved since that operational working group that's paper exists and is working well. What's recently changed is that it's evolved to a point where Tūtahanga and them have come up with a way of displaying the work in two different types of tables. One is for the individual council involved in the work that they've committed to doing already, and one is to look at it holistically, so there's no chance for double ups. There's maximum leverage if we want to apply, if Waikato Tainui and any of the councils apply for external funding to support. So I want to note that there's been a little bit of discomfort at times across this training around whether something's happening in a committee and then not everyone's across it. And our chair actually proposed that we have a workshop on this. And I said, oh, it's pretty late in the training. I don't think we need to spend extra councillor time on it when it's something that has and is already happening. How much do you need to explain that? So it's my fault that I said, let's not have a workshop. What I would be keen is for Tūtahanga to have a chance for us to receive this report, and that if any councillors want to give some feedback for them to consider over the turn of the training, that would be really useful. But I have just, thanks to Tūtahanga's email to the parties involved, heard that the other TAs haven't yet brought it to their JMAs, which were mainly this month as well. So they'll be doing, if they want to do signing of MOUs, it'll be. And so we could equally do the same. We've been the leader in this space, and hence it'd be nice to be first, but at the same time, it's very late in the training. That's something that the new council could pick up and hopefully shape and own as they wish. But I do note that from the JMA yesterday, there was very, very positive feedback from Waikato Tainui in particular. That would be my suggestion, is that we might receive the report. And I'd move that, and that we just take an action to have it lie, unless there's evidence to the contrary. But I'm keen to hear people's thoughts, because we haven't had that all together.
Yeah, yeah. It was unanimously supported at the JMA yesterday.
Yeah, they see the sense in the mahi tahi.
Yeah.
Tahi tahi.
All right. Councillor Nicol at this stage is proposing that we just receive the report, and we note an action for future council.
Whatever they'd like to do. Yeah.
So,
but if I know Tūtahanga did prepare to come here today, so should we hear?
Sure.
I think you covered everything well, Councillor Nicol. This is really about formalising collaboration between Waikato Tainui, WRC, Hamilton City, Waikato District and Waipa District Councils. We're aiming to have a single framework for climate mitigation, adaptation and resilience within the Waikato Tainui rohe. A single operational working group, a clear separation between sort of governance intent through the proposed MOU and delivery through the strategic alliance framework. And it's based around current activity, what we're existing work, and following the climate action roadmap. The aim is to have more oversight, avoid duplication, and provide opportunities for external funding for some of the activities.
Great, thank
Madam Chair,
you.
can I seek clarity on something, please?
Sure.
So is Councillor Nichols saying that we do item 1 and then amend number 2 to say that the matter lies on the table and brought to the attention of the next council? Is that what the proposal is now?
I think that that the report is received and there's just an action recorded,
Yeah, Dave
that it
knows.
comes back to the next council.
Do you have a preference, Noel?
No, I don't have a preference,
Yeah.
but like.
I can, either way.
Does it just lie there forever or how is it brought back?
Yeah, I suppose it highlights that our actions aren't as visible, perhaps through the trinium, so we can word something to that effect. Because we do still need to deal with the recommendation from the JMA, and so I suppose that means it's not going to get lost. Would you agree with Dave?
Speak to that.
So there's a couple of points here. We can record an action in the minutes, and essentially the action that is proposed here is that we retable this at a subsequent meeting. But as Councillor Nicol has pointed out, there is also a recommendation coming from the Co-Governance Committee, and we could simply, when those minutes are received, and I can't recall if we've received those today, I don't think we did.
No, that was just yesterday's meeting, so we probably haven't.
When those minutes are received by the next council, which will probably be the November meeting, we would, as standard practice, be a recommendation on the back of the minutes.
But wouldn't the chief executive sign those minutes off as part of the end of the training roundup?
No, because we're only receiving them. We're not confirming them as correct, as it's a committee with external members. So they will ultimately go back to the next Co-Governance Committee meeting for ratification.
Sorry, Angela, but if it comes up in the JMA minutes as a recommendation, to land a recommendation without the background to a new council, that's what I want. It's a gap in the process. So,
we would table additional material as we have done with some other reports. So it's likely that with the minutes, we'd obviously include what it is that is proposed to be adopted, and would provide some background.
I'll leave it at that. I think I've made the point.
Just if I may, through you, Madam Chair, just picking up on Noel's point, I think the motion should be that it goes back to a workshop of the incoming council. I have a number of questions and issues and things around it, and if I can't workshop it, and this same document comes back to me, if I'm here next time, and council, I'm going to have those same questions where I think you could basically, answer the bulk of those through a workshop process.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I
mean, and by putting it in a resolution, it's even less chance of.
Well, it's not going to get lost. There's a resolution there, and then staff will frame up when there's some workshop time for the new council.
So instead of the action, just going to slot in a point 2 that the Strategic Climate Alliance Memorandum of Understanding be tabled for a workshop post-election for the incoming council to consider. All right, we've got a mover. Are you happy? First of all, just checking.
I mean, it's automatically what's going to happen. That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
So we've got a mover in Councillor Nicol and a second in Councillor Smith.
But I am keen if there's time to get a little bit of feedback from existing council.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. If people have got some feedback now for Tūtahanga in the meantime, that'd be really helpful for them.
Great. Councillor Strange?
Nothing to add. Everything's been said.
Great. All right. Oh, Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
So I have a number of quick questions in here, but I don't know whether now's the time or we do post-election. It's just, to me, it's a strange document that's got included activities and then excluded activities. And one of them is decisions that exclude or disrespect tangata whenua. That seems to me strange that you would nominate that as an issue, because presumably you wouldn't want an MOU that did those things. So I just wonder if the lawyers have been through this in detail. Has there been a legal opinion on this MOU?
MOUs aren't the same type of a binding agreement as other agreements that we've dealt with recently. So I wouldn't expect to spend lawyer time on it, money on it.
Well, if perhaps our in-house lawyers could look at this. It's just this, just to review these things, because we're signing an MOU and it does statutorily binding, but it is actually relevant. And I appreciate that this is stalling in the sense that came to the Climate Action Committee in May. then the August committee was cancelled. And at the time I had asked questions about costing and funding.
Okay, so I don't want to workshop this in this meeting. If councillors have some queries or responses or feedback, we can send that through to Tahanga, and they can be brought to the workshop for the future council. All right, I don't want to get too deep here. Councillor Marr.
No. I'll provide email written feedback because I have a number of things and yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, I just think it's really important that those questions do come in ahead of time, just so there's time for staff to be prepared and to answer them as well, rather than last minute sort of gotcha kind of questions. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
And on that, it's actually really good because if the others haven't signed this, it'd be good for your comments to come in. So this is the best opportunity to do that. You don't want to spend a lot of time on this.
All right. We've got a mover and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Hilda, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll now go to item 7.8. This is on page 185. The NZ Mutual Liability Risk Pool Trust Deed Variation. Hello, Janine.
Good morning.
Welcome to the last meeting.
So through the chair, we'll largely take the report as read. Obviously happy to take any questions on it. I guess just though to call out the key points. So New Zealand Mutual Liability Risk Pool was a mutual fund that was set up back in 1997 as an alternative to commercial insurance arrangements or markets for the local government sector, particularly in relation to liability matters. And so that was a response to the exiting of commercial insurance providers from wanting to offer that coverage to local government. So the scheme was in place until 2015-16 and it's been in wind up since that point in time. The changes that are requested and set out in this report are in response to a review of the governance arrangements of the trust. Some of them are just to reflect good practice and to bring the trust deed up in line with current trust law. The most significant matter in there, though, is around the indemnity provisions for the trustee company and its directors. And so that obviously provides a protection for those directors from any personal liability, which is seen to be in the best interests of members of the scheme in terms of those trustees acting in the best interests of the members, knowing that they actually have that protection from liability. The change requires 90% shareholder approval. From webinars that I have attended with key staff across the sector, the intent of this change is well supported, but it is up to each individual council member to determine that in their own right. So recommendation is from staff to approve the changes, but in council's hands, and happy to take any further questions.
So we've got a mover in Councillor Hughes and a second in Councillor Downard. Any questions, clarification?
Just one,
points?
Madam Chair. What are claims done in UK?
Oh, so through the chair, that's the reinsurance. So the claims are handled in New Zealand under New Zealand law. But the way that any settlement funds are recovered is through reinsurance in the UK. And so there's conversations and a process that the trustees manage in terms of ensuring that the reinsurers are actually paying against any successful claims that are made.
Councillor Marr?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Janine just noted in the report the legacy costs and of that 3.3 to 3.7 million, and there may be an update August 2025. Has there been an update?
So through the chair, the update was effectively noting the call on council for the $70,811. So that brings, I guess, the settlement up to date at that point in time. But each fund year is considered as these claims are going through the court.
Just for the clarity.
All right, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Janine. Thank you. Right, home stretch, people. 7.9. This is on page 191. This is the Tenehinui Joint Management Agreement schedules. This has been workshopped by council. So councilors should be familiar with the content.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the intro, I will take it as read and ask for any questions.
You good?
I'm happy to move the two recommendations there. Hang on, sorry, page now.
This is on 191. Oh, wait a minute. No, where's the recommendations are on 193.
Yes,
So that the report is received and the inclusion of schedules 2 through 9 as attached.
I think from memory, Otorohanga's last council meeting's a couple of days away, and we're the only two councils that haven't signed off on it as yet. So
yeah. Waitomo, Waikato, and Waipa have all formally approved.
Yeah. Just a timing thing with different councils' last meetings.
Yeah. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, just a quick question. The blue is the latest changes in all the red in the track changes.
Okay, I'm just trying to find some blue. All I can see is red.
205, for example.
205.
Page 205.
On 205, yeah, there's blue at the top of the markup and there's red further down.
Really?
I didn't actually pick up on the different colours. I just assumed that, because as Noel said, it struck through, or it's, yeah, because you see, if you look, there's even a bit of purple there. I think it's probably whoever did the, yeah.
There have been no new changes made since the last time you saw this document when we workshopped it. So if that gives you any confidence about timing of changes, there is nothing new in the schedule since the last time council saw it.
So, I mean, it's obviously saying the process. So,
Right, I've got a mover. I need a second. So,
yeah, just a real basic one. It's a typo. So, page 219, we refer to costs in Schedule 10. There is no Schedule 10 now. It's actually Schedule 9. Just for your awareness, and happy to second. Oh, if it is midnight, sorry.
Okay. All right. He got to that after he read through that whole coastal plan. That was great. Love it. Yeah, yeah. All right, we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Marley, thank you for workshopping this first. It's much better than, yeah.
Great. We're now on item 7.10. This is on page 230. You're back again, Janine. This is the Research and Development Opportunities Fund Policy. Fund policy. Policy. And we have Janine and Connie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will start the conversation. Fair to say, Connie, of course, has done all the hard work and development of the policy. The Research and Development Opportunities Fund came about in response to Council's resolution in May to establish an R&D fund of up to $1 million, so with a contribution of $250,000 per annum, building up to that maximum of $1 million. The policy is really intended to describe the fund and its intentions, how it will be managed and how it will be utilised, and how decisions on that utilisation will be made. A key aspect of the policy is really around setting of the Council's risk appetite for projects that will receive funding, acknowledging that the risk appetite in this space will be higher or needs to be higher than for other Council activities, reflecting the fund's distinct characteristics, which are set out in terms of an innovation focus, strategic impact, agility, but with risk, higher risk. In essence, applications for funding will follow a really similar process to the evaluation of other work that Council undertakes, both new and existing programs of work. That allows us to understand the work that will be required to support any initiative and its impact on already planned work for the organisation. All applications will be assessed by ELT, where possible through a quarterly process so that we can do a weigh and assess. But the policy does allow that where work is more urgent, that can be fast-tracked. Ultimately, and that's in support of the principle or objective around agility, ultimately final decisions for any applications of funding will come back to you to make. And that's important to ensure that the risk associated with the proposals is fully understood and accepted, and that the benefits anticipated from the investment are clear and trackable. So, Madam Chair, there's probably a number of questions from elected members, which we're happy to work through.
I'm going to go to Mr. Chief Executive first.
Yeah, thank you. Originally, I had thought we might get another paper on this agenda as a request from the fund if the policy was approved, and that was to look at the feasibility of trying to establish manufacture for flood pumps in the region and what it would take to enable that. I haven't been in a position to be able to get that finalised so it would meet a policy, and of course we didn't know what the policy, if it was going to get approved today, or what changes might need to be made to it, so I haven't done that. But I just thought I'd give that as a flavour, as the type of thing, as an example, which might come through, to do something differently, which isn't capable, which might take working with some partners, might take working with Kānoa to help set something up for the benefit of the Waikato region.
All right, I've got Councillor Hughes and then Councillor Strange. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wish you had presented a paper now. That would have made life a lot easier for us, Chris, because that sort of a project I totally support. As this policy document is written, I can't support it. I think it's covering, it's too wide in terms of reference, and I would expected to have seen something which was far more directed towards set of objectives that we want to achieve as council out of this fund. I'm suggesting that this needs to be workshops so we can have that discussion out of council, whether it's with a committee of interested councillors or whether it's full council, I don't mind, but I'm not happy to subscribe to this document as it is at the moment. So happy to make recommendations, but I think that'd be a waste of time because I really think it needs a full and fulsome discussion.
Yep.
Just through you, Madam Chair. So I know that when there was discussion in May, there was some discussion that it might be quite narrow in its focus, and the council at that meeting looked to, Janine, I'm looking to you just to check this is correct, looked for it to be a little bit more fulsome, more open right across council. I'm just checking that was my understanding. So without giving away all those any concerns, is the nature of this the type of is it the concern about the generality of it? Would you like it to be more specific?
When we discussed it originally, I understood that we were looking at some specifically targeted objectives. For example, and the pump is a good example. So that had the opportunity of import replacement, so it was going to move activity from offshore to local business, which was ticks the box for me. I don't see that in any of the objectives that are set there in terms of measuring these things. It's going to deliver efficiencies for our farmers, because if it's cheaper, then it's going to be cheaper for them on a long-term basis. There's just those sorts of issues I think are critical. And I think it needs to be focused. Otherwise, we'll end up sitting around the table like we were previously when we get all these projects coming to us. And to be quite honest, most of us are not in a position to be able to meaningfully debate some of the issues that arise out of it. I would like to see this thing, if it succeeds, set up a council-owned organisation which can sell the property rights to the project, so that we actually generate some revenue from this in the future, which can then come back to used as a top-up for the pool. I don't see any of that in here, and I know I've discussed it with Janine. She said we can't do it. Well, I think we need to think outside the circle, outside the square, if you like, in terms of how we can make this work for everybody. Because the potential in this is quite significant for New Zealand Inc. I want to make sure that the Regional Council and our ratepayers capture some of that value.
I've got Councillor Strange, Councillor Smith, and Dunbar Smith.
Yeah, thank you. I tend to agree with what Councillor Hughes has said. There's just a few too many gaps in what we're seeing today. I'll leave it there.
We've had two councillors saying that actually probably not in a place. So I need to hear if there are others who are fully supportive of what's being proposed here and want to forge ahead, because I need to understand what are the views on this.
Madam Chair, can I?
Standing orders allow 3.
Madam,
Yes, I'm just highlighting for people that if there are some who are fully supportive of this, then I need to hear that.
Madam Chair, can I just, on page 237 of your agenda, there are set out in there a number of strategic objectives for the fund, as well as some guiding principles. Probably if the council isn't in a place to receive this at the moment, it's absolutely fine. But it would be helpful probably offline to understand where that detail is not providing sufficient assurance for elected members around decision making.
So,
yes, Councillor Smith.
thank you. And going back to support the Chief Executive, your recollection is absolutely correct. We discussed this, and whilst the genesis of the idea was brought forward by Councillors Story and Cookson earlier in the year, Council supported this fund, and when it was discussed, it was targeted. The pump was the example that was being used. So if we could do that, so I'm not going to go over it, but the reality was there was discussion in this room that said rather than just focusing on ICM, there may be opportunities across the business, and we agreed to that. And when I read this, I thought to myself, yeah, probably much wider than intended originally, but it allows that. I in discussion with others this morning, was querying whether it's gone too far. It may have, but it allows it to happen. But I think in reality and in practice, it will be focused on our deliverables. And a third of our business is rivers and drainage, and that's where I see a lot of our opportunities for innovation. So this covers a more broad range than some of us anticipated originally, but it doesn't exclude opportunities for other parts of the business. And I think in reality, it is okay if we want to modify it later, but I'd like to see it in place because then we can get on with that application that is necessary, because without that seed funding into development locally, we are not likely to see that sort of millions of dollars being spent in New Zealand to get the product, and our reliance then on overseas, particularly the Dutch and so on, will just make it hellishly expensive going forward. So I just ask you to step back and say, is this okay to start with and we can refine it later? Or do we want to delay it? And I'm not sitting on the fence because I see there's an opportunity here to do both. So to me, just step back a moment, guys and ladies, and have a think about it. Shall we adopt it? See how it goes? Yeah, I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
Can we weave into the motion some sort of hey, we adopted in principle, we'd like to, if there is a trial application that we are considering, can we have loop it back? Let's try it, but let's make a commitment to a review.
Yeah.
So that we can.
Through the chair, absolutely. I think the policy allows for an annual review, but I had noted that probably as each application to it comes through, we need to do a bit of a lessons learned and reflection on that to go, how's it actually working for us? Is it actually achieving the intended outcomes? And part of that is also going to be, as money is spent and benefits are realised, is it giving the payback that's anticipated through taking a different type of risk by the organisation?
And yes, Councillor Niban, this is a draft, but we're seeking to approve that draft. So I just am wanting to, I'm just testing, would we need additional words in this? Oh, look at that, it's appearing right before my eyes. Okay, I'm going to continue going through, but let's just see if there's a level of comfort with what we're adding here. Okay, I've got Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, a couple of questions. So item 11 here, page 231, says, in addition to the decision to draft a policy, Council approves the use of accumulated funds for the provision of new technology for flood protection and drainage, 250,000. So are we talking 500,000 in total? There's 250,000 set aside for a specific project that is outside of this, and then there's 250,000 going towards anyone who applies?
So through the chair, this fund has received $250,000 of funding in the current financial year. So that was a decision that you made through your annual plan.
Yep.
In addition to that, out of prior year surplus funds, it was noted that in relation to one potential project that would be considered through this fund, there was 250,000 of prior year surplus that was notionally tagged to that if needed. And that was effectively to have the level of resourcing that council may need to put on the table for conversations with other funders. So potentially there's 500,000.
Yeah, so I need
the 250 is tagged to a particular initiative.
So that initiative, does that then have to jump through the hurdle of this particular draft policy in order to get approved?
Yes, it should.
Okay. So, for example, will it meet the 5% Te Ao Māori inclusive design criteria, for example, if it's already been designed?
So it's assessed across a number of criteria. Thank you. It's a weighted assessment of the criteria. It doesn't need to tick every box, but you need to consider those different aspects of a proposal because that gives you a basis on which you can compare.
So is that application ready to go if we then approve this draft? So that with prior year surplus money was ready to.
So just to clarify, that one which was relating to siphon technology is different to what I referred to before.
Right.
And so I think I'd look, Robbie might know where that siphon project is at, otherwise Greg might know.
The siphon technology is in tranche 3 if it's going to get funding from Kanoa. So it's not in this process at all anymore.
So I'm more confused than ever now because we had a debate about surplus prior year fund surplus and the 250 set aside for new technology for flood protection and drainage. But that's not now going to be applied because it's going through Kanoa.
Through the chair, I think you're correct in the sense that the siphon technology is going through a different process, a central government process. I think that tagging of that money was, should it require co-funding or something from the Waikato region for it to be able to be applied into the Waikato region, that was being tagged. I think that was the discussion at the time.
Okay, so can we give the $250,000 back in rates? Question.
Good on you. Thanks, Assistant.
It was a good shot. Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, thanks. Look, totally get what Noel's saying. I think if it's okay for policy to be too broad, because it'll be case by case that anything gets approved. The other issue I've got, though, which makes me more inclined perhaps to go on a similar path to what we did with the Climate Alliance one, of having a resolution that then talks about a workshop, just getting the next council to approve, is because you're talking about setting risk appetite, which is happening early next trinium for the strategic direction in general. It feels like it's the next council that should set that risk appetite as opposed to us in the last. Equally, the scope that we want feedback on. So it just seems like that's where it would sit better. However, if we were to approve it, having a project and a review within the first 6 months to really tailor it to whatever the new council to be essentially could come out to the same result. So I am on the fence. I'm going to go whichever way the room goes, I imagine. But the feedback I did have just having read it for the first time is that I have 3 comments and 1 question, and the comments are some of the assessment criteria. I wonder whether they could go into the gating process more and have hence a bigger weighting on the things that really matter. That's just feedback. If we're workshopping, that's what I'd explore. I saw in there something about the CE having the deciding vote on an aspect, but there was also commentary about whether further info is required. And I would have put the CE quite high up on and a few other comments on having the deciding vote on all of it, because with the higher risk appetite, that's where it goes, right? So making that really clear. And the third comment was, I really do support Chris Hughes's comment on the supporting local. I think that if that risk was realised and that the outcomes don't deliver, if at least the money has been spent locally, that would be more, that would be better than say if it went off to another country or something. So that's just feedback and something to consider. The question was, how would the ELT manage the oversight of not squandering the money on the small opportunities and then a big one comes along and you can't do it? You know, that kind of balancing out. Have you given it some thought? That's only a question. Or do you think it will be very much just life is that it's first in, first served? Yeah.
So through the chair, that's part of the process in terms of doing a quarterly funding application. The CE aspect of that is that if something cannot wait for that quarterly process, then it can be accelerated. So
cool.
Not necessarily that he's got the casting vote on anything, but the ability to, say, fast track things if required because of that agility factor. It is always going to be a risk when you have limited funding, and if you want agility, that it is going to be first in, first served. which is where the assessment criteria are actually really important at the beginning. And I think part of any of these initiatives would actually require really clear staging and gating, so that we're not releasing any more funding than we need to progress the next step and understand how that's been successful. Because at what time do ideas need to be stopped?
Yeah.
And I think that's
Or
one of the key
transferred to a different
risks
budget.
that we keep trying to worry away at a problem that's not actually going to provide us the benefit. So this will require good oversight and governance. And that's, we've got enhanced project program oversight mechanisms being developed for the organisation now. This needs to fold into that so we understand how these sit relative to everything else that we're doing as well. But those clear gate stages in terms of we've actually spent that funding, what have we learned? What's the next bit that we need to do? The funding might have already been approved, but not available until it's actually passed through that stage gate to progress.
Thank you for that. Leaning towards giving a lot more power to the next council rather than just rushing it through now, but we'll see what others say.
Okay, I am looking for some sort of indication because I'm hearing a whole lot all over the show. So, right, Councillor Strange, Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you. Probably just to add to my comments earlier, just that public accountability of funds. I know with other funding applications in other areas of council, there's been huge focus on accountability, on clawback, on meeting tranches as they come. So probably just similar questions to Councillor Nicol as well about, is there an upward limit of what people use? And then just that clear criteria that it is going the direction that we want it to. And, what happens if people don't meet those thresholds? Does that money come back or is it just gone?
So through the chair, can I make a clarification or check on those comments? This is funding that is available for WRC use only, so it's not a public fund. Okay. So we are accountable for the management and appropriate spend of it. It is not a fund that's available for others outside to apply to us for. So
good clarification. Thank you.
Nice. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. And I support what Councillor Nicol was saying before. Jennifer encouraged me to look at the weighting criteria, which I did, and I'm not going to go through the reasons for it now, but as far as I'm concerned, the strategic alignment should have 50%. And that's why these policies are so critical, because they will drive the decision-making process. And that's why I don't want to approve this now. So I think that is the key to this thing, and that is my understanding of the original discussion we had. It has to be strategically aligned with what the council is trying to achieve. We then need to flesh that out underneath that as a set of sub-objectives which will drive value, not only for the ratepayers, but also for the region.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy where this wording's landed in that space. I do think it needs to be, the overall scope of it does need to be narrowed down, and I wouldn't like it, and you touched on it, Janine, anyway, the fact that staff get too far down the track with a business case, etc., and then all of a sudden we go, no, it doesn't comply. We do have, looking through the process, we do have the oversight at the end, and just listening to what Chris outlined high level for that pump program, to me that hits the mark, and that's the sort of thing that I believe that this was set up for originally. So I would like to see this go through today. I would like to see the ability for that to be brought to a table to actually progress through, and then the learnings from it. So that's where I sit.
Did you want to move that? I am going to see this through though. Got Councillor Cook, then Councillor Kneebone, and then we're going to.
No, Councillor Maher stole my flame then, so it's exactly what I was going to do.
Ditto. Nice. Exactly. You give away all the secrets. Yeah. All right. Councillor Dunbar Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the processes up there. I just want to know, the fund is effectively for 250,000. The other 250,000 from accumulated prior year surplus. What is going to happen to that if it's not funded? You know,
If it's not applied under this process.
So to clarify, the fund as of today has $250,000 in it, and each year 250, a further 250, up to a maximum of $1 million. And if it's not spent, then we don't need to put any more in. If the council resolution that set aside $250,000 from the prior year surplus around a particular initiative is no longer required, that will be returned effectively as part of the prior year surplus, over which the next council will get to consider.
Councillor Kneebone.
Oh, it was just a comment. I mean, to all intents and purposes, it's like a bit of a reserve, but we just need to make sure that the comms around it reflect the fact that it's an internal fund, not otherwise people will get
exactly. This isn't the.
It's around our own.
What did we call it? Regional Development Fund.
Not one of those.
That's not what this is. No, this is trying to identify new ways of doing things.
Efficient, effective productivity for the way that we are running as an organisation.
Great. All right. I've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed?
Support.
Carried. You. All right, now we are on item 711. I know. All right, so this is the delegated authority during the, is it interregnum? Interregnum. A weird word. Period.
Madam Chair,
all right, yes.
I'm in favour of this, and I spoke to the Chief Executive yesterday about delegations, how they're being exercised. I feel that not everyone in the room's got this, and they're not going to get it from me. But this is what I'm holding in my hand is a minute from the Environment Court issued last Friday to the appeal, and it's in part all these red or pink, whichever you're colourblind on, a little bit critical of the council in certain aspects. And in fairness, Chris and I discussed it again this morning. The court's been quite harsh on the council at times, but in its own defence, Chris pointed out the council was trying to help in one aspect, but it just, all I'm asking is that when our delegations are exercised by our staff, that they step back a little bit and you know, like not responding to court directions. That to me is poor form. So I just ask of our staff reflect on their actions and how it's perceived in a court of law. I don't want to dwell on it, don't want to talk about what's really in here, but just know that I am concerned about how the delegations have been. And that's no reflection, I believe, on you personally, Chris, because I think in life we can all do better at times. Leave it at that. Support.
Yeah, Councillor Dunbar.
Madam Chair, three things. One, I note that Chris is not allowed to appoint a new chief executive during the interim period or adopt a employee remuneration policy. Secondly, I note we've got a new committee called the Waikato Charitable Trust and Waikato Regional Transport Co-Governance Committee at B and G, which I thought would be an interesting co-governance committee to have. And see over the page in terms of allocation of organisations, Hauraki Murray Trust Board, Waikato Regional Council Joint Working Party, maybe party to that. We never had a meeting from what I can recall. So I don't know where something fell down there, because we've certainly been active in the Hauraki Plains and other things. So yeah.
You're quite right. We haven't met with that with Hauraki Māori Trust Board this term. It is often really difficult to find time and topics that bring us together. And so this mana whakahonoa that we are discussing currently is likely to bring us together in the coming term for lots of discussions.
All right. Councillor Nebon.
Just a question. Those court minutes and various correspondence that the parties are all privy to, what's the status of those? Because there are bits and pieces floating around. I have actually seen very little of it, but I've just wondered, please, yeah. Because it kind of feels quite dangerous when there's bits of it floating around and not all of it.
While Brent's getting a microphone, he might be able to reply in the absence of Tracy. But without going into the detail, there are a lot of minutes that have come out from the court over time, and a lot of them have been very complimentary of WRC. But Brent, can you respond to the question?
In brief, I was having a chat with Tracy about this a day or so ago, and there's nothing secret squirrels about it, Councillor Lebo, and I think Tracy's planning to put a package together to provide the full suite of minutes that have happened over the course of the court hearing for councillors to review at their leisure.
All right.
A question, Madam Chair?
Yes. Yes, Councillor Smith.
I believe on page 243 that we've missed something out, and Dave, you will recall that attending the Waikato and Hauraki subcommittees of the ICM, that you gave a commitment that those committees would continue post triennium. However, the councillors would be given the boot until the new ones were re-elected or elected. So I don't see the subcommittees on this schedule. So
I can actually comment here. While the subcommittees are not on the schedule and they are discharged at the end of the triennium, we did commit that, as we have done in previous trienniums, not the last one, we would retain the ratepayer representatives and we wouldn't go through the appointment process again. So if those committees were reconstituted by the new council, those members would fall into place.
Okay, is that, do you think that's good enough? Yep, thank you.
You're going to make that correction?
Yeah, just so there's no ambiguity of what this interregnum period is, it does refer to in paragraph 2 in the executive summary that the inaugural meeting of council is scheduled for Wednesday, the 27th of October. That should be the 29th of October.
And a seconder. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff. As this is our last meeting of the triennium, I just wanted to say a few words just to close us off. So as we conclude the final meeting of this triennium, I want to acknowledge the commitment and the energy that each and every one of you have brought to the table over the past 3 years. It has been a privilege to serve as chair alongside all of our dedicated councillors, our chief executive, our executive leadership team, and our dedicated staff. Since October 2022, when we all took office, we've navigated a period of significant change and challenge, from extreme weather events, new invasive species, economic pressures, to shifting government priorities. Through it all, we have remained focused on our purpose, working together for a Waikato region that has a healthy environment, vibrant communities, and a strong economy. Our diverse region and vast variety of communities of interest have been reflected in the range of political viewpoints that are represented around our regional decision-making table. And while we have not always agreed and our politics have not always aligned, we have always managed to find our way through professionally and productively. I want to highlight just a few of the many milestones we've reached together. We updated the State of the Environment report, completed new catchment management plans, advanced a biosecurity accord, and just today we have adopted a proposed Waikato Regional Coastal Plan. With additional investment through the LTP, we have provided a significant boost for community restoration efforts across the region through the Natural Heritage Partnership Program. We've responded to new invasive species, including the golden clam on the Waikato River and the spread of caulerpa in our coastal marine areas. We have worked productively with central government, our territorial and regional neighbors, and our iwi partners to respond collectively to limit the spread and the impact. Alongside our partners in civil defense and emergency management, we've responded to cyclones and state of emergency events that have compromised the safety and connectivity across our regional communities, including roading out to Raglan and, of course, Coromandel. We advocated for those communities and offered support in their recovery. We updated our climate action roadmap, adopted the Nature Plus framework, stepping out the pathway for the Council to restore Indigenous biodiversity by leveraging carbon and biodiversity markets. We adopted a roadmap for improved water security, have adaptation planning underway with a variety of our TA partners and their communities, including Wharikawa Coast, Kaiawa, Hauraki Plains, TCDC, and Port Waikato. We adopted a 50-year infrastructure strategy, upgraded stop banks, protecting our communities, installed fish-friendly infrastructure, undertook wetland restoration, and completed our $60 million shovel-ready program, 50% of which was externally funded. We've reduced the ratepayer burden, particularly for targeted ratepayers, by securing significant central government funding, including over $1 million in funding for improved community resilience in the Coromandel, $2.8 million from MPI's Hill Country Erosion Program, $3.3 million funding to support recovery from the 2023 floods, and $12.5 million funding to support key flood protection projects through the Regional Infrastructure Fund. Connecting our communities has been paramount, including establishing the Meteor, what we heard earlier today, our high-frequency bus service that since its launch has seen nearly 1.3 million passengers jump on board. We introduced electric buses in Taupo and Waipa districts, and every year we see over 1 million passenger transport trips either begin or end at the Hamilton Transport Center across the road. We secured continued funding for the Te Huia passenger rail service, which has hosted over 225,000 trips since its launch, a true testament to how interregional public transport connects our communities, lightens the load on roading infrastructure, and connects our communities to housing, education, employment, and social connection. And with a 98% customer satisfaction rating, the Te Huia crew serve our customers to the highest degree. We've recognized the power and influence of collective action and collective endeavor through our various partnerships, including Future Proof, the Mayoral Forum, where we secured unanimous support for our regional deal application, and through the Upper North Island Strategic Alliance, where we have committed to an infrastructure development plan that sees a joined-up approach to connecting our ever-growing communities. And this, of course, is just a small sample of the mahi that we have undertaken over the last 3 years. I understand that at times this can feel like a marathon, and at times it seems like we are climbing a never-ending mountain. And we can lose sight of our progress because it feels that we move at a glacial pace. But these achievements that I've noted are not just numbers or reports, they represent real progress for our region, our environment, and our people. They reflect our shared values, our strategic direction, and our unwavering commitment to serve. To our partners, stakeholders, and our communities, thank you for your continued engagement. You help shape our direction, and you help set the future foundations of our communities and our region. Our decisions are made more informed, long-lasting, and future-focused because of your involvement. To our dedicated staff members, I see how hard you work. I see your skills and your expertise. I see your commitment to serving our regional communities, and I am so proud of how you represent Waikato Regional Council. To my fellow councillors, thank you for your leadership, your commitment, and your care for the people and the places around the Waikato region. I hope all of you walk out of here proud of the future that you have helped create over the last 3 years. As we close this chapter and look ahead to the next, let us carry forward our partnerships, the drive for excellence, and the shared commitment to make the Waikato region the best that it can be. Ngā mihi nui. Thank you very much. And so with that, oh, that was a pathetic little. With that, I know. So with that, we will close our final meeting for the triennium, the Karakia.
Thank you. And just before I do, just on behalf of the executive team and all staff, I just actually really want to thank you as councillors. We've really enjoyed working with you, and I say that from the heart. You're a good bunch of people. I really appreciate your commitment to the public good. It's not hard being a public leader in this day and age. The fact that you've all put your hand back in the ring to be elected again probably demonstrates your commitment in many, many ways. So, but it is a significant role, you know, in helping make the Waikato a better place now and in the future. So I just want to note that. I know it's not easy in the role that you have to do, and I just want to acknowledge on behalf of the team our appreciation of what you've done. Personally, I just want to thank you for the support you've given me over the last 3 years. It's very much appreciated, doesn't go unnoticed, and I just want to wish you all the best in the upcoming election. I'll just finish with closing karakia. Unahia mai te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te hinanaro, e te ara takatu, koe rā e rongo, e whakaaria ake ke ronga, kia tina, homeo, huiei, tai kie.
We will declare the meeting closed at 12:40.